My name's Ashley Russo, and I'm remembering my first son, my second born, Dominic, who was stillborn at 39 weeks in October of 2014. When we found out that Dominic's heart had stopped, we were given a few different options for what to do next. What my partner and I chose to do was to go home, pack our bags, and come straight back into the hospital for an induction that evening. So in the hospital setting, we were given as much time as we wanted to spend with Dominic. We ended up feeling that we would never feel ready to say goodbye. Having to leave the hospital with empty arms is the last thing anyone wants to do when they've gone in to deliver a baby. Going through the death of a baby is shattering in so many ways, in so many different avenues of life. It affects your immediate family, it affects your extended family, and it affects your friendships and relationships outside of that. We had to navigate parenting while grieving, and we had to navigate our daughter's grief as well. And that's been an ongoing thing as she's gotten older, and with our subsequent babies, we've always been very open about Dominic with them, and his name is said daily in our house. It's not an isolated event. It's not a sad day in your life. It's something that you remember every day, whether that's with tears or in loving remembrance. During my pregnancy, I was cared for at a group practice where there were 5 or 6 obstetricians. So through the pregnancy, I got to know each of them quite well. So I was always speaking with someone who I already knew. And I found that was really helpful. I meet a lot of families who really struggle with that question of whether things could have turned out differently if someone had involved them in the decision-making process. But for me personally, I find it's one of the things that has helped me with my healing the most, knowing we did what we all believed was the best at the time. So we didn't consent to an autopsy, but there were investigations done on his placenta. The diagnostic tests that were done on the placenta did lead to new information about the cause of Dominic's condition, and that allowed us to prevent the same thing from arising in a future pregnancy. One thing that was really notable to me when I went through the delivery of Dominic was that I was treated exactly the same way I was treated when I had my firstborn through the hospital. My favourite thing that someone in the hospital did was I had one of the midwives on the ward come in to check on me, but before she came over to me, she stopped to look at Dominic. And she commented on how beautiful he was. She commented on the name we'd chosen for him. And she did what I guess all midwives in the hospital would do. She, cooed over my little baby before she came over to see how I was going. And I really, really appreciated that way. I was not treated as a patient who'd had a terrible outcome. I was treated as a mum. The hospital staff were really wonderful to us. They gave us opportunities for memory making with Dominic. They took his handprints. They made sure we had a lock of hair. They gave us the opportunity to dress him and bathe him. They made sure that we had the blanket that he was wrapped in at birth. We had all his hospital tags and everything found their way back to us as mementos. There are many reasons why it's important to have these conversations as a community, but also during an expectant pregnancy. Firstly, if women aren't aware of the risks and aren't aware of what they could be doing to prevent a stillbirth or to prevent any kind of undesirable outcome, then if they do sadly find themselves in that position, they're going to be left wondering what they could have done differently, and they're going to hold a lot of guilt around what's happened. It's important to have a standard approach to how to treat families who are identified as at risk of stillbirth and in treating families once they've experienced a stillbirth. Sadly, I still meet families all the time through my work who have really differing experiences of how they were treated before, during, and after a stillbirth. And a lot of the time that can lead to really complex issues in their grief. My hope is that these standards will help to ensure that everyone is treated with the same respect that I was treated with, and given the best chance of not only bringing home a live baby, but if they sadly don't, then receiving the best support in that time afterwards.